Good morning and welcome everyone. Monique Musaya, the director of the gallery, can't make it today, so that's why I am greeting you. My name is Aruna Mungra and I also work for the gallery. Our speaker of today is Chris Friday, a multidisciplinary artist and independent curator. She is the current visitor in the exchange program from DVCAI, Diaspora 5, Cultural Arts Incubator based in Miami, in collaboration with the gallery. We, the team of ReadyText Art Gallery, hope that you will enjoy the presentation. I will now give the floor to Chris Friday. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction.
Thank you.
And, well, first, can everybody hear me just fine, or should I use the microphone? Or?
Oh. Okay. Oh, yes. Okay.
Can you hear me better?
Yes.
All right. So, I am Chris Friday. I'm from Miami, Florida, and y'all are so far away. Can we? Yes, yes. See, I like that. Let's be family for the next hour or so, okay? Oh no, it's fine. I'm a very anxious public speaker anyway, so you can't be too close or too far. It's gonna be the same result either way. But yes, I'm Chris Friday. I'm from Miami, Florida, and I'm here in Suriname visiting for the month of September as a part of an artist residency that's sponsored by DVCAI, which is Diaspora Vibes Cultural Arts Incubator, and the George M. Perez Family Foundation. And there are two artist organizations based in Miami, Florida, and they do work outside of the city limits just like this. And I'm so excited to have been gifted this opportunity. Suriname has been beautiful. I will include it in my presentations moving forward because I've had life-changing experiences out here that I just can't wait to share with everybody. But I just want to thank you guys for being here today. I heard it was kind of a busy Saturday and weekend for everybody, so just thank you for being here. And before we get started, are there any artists besides Ronaldo, whose work we're in the middle of right now? Are there any other artists? You? Okay, then I'm especially glad to have you here, and thank you for coming. I'm also being hosted by Kurt Nahar and his beautiful family, and Monique here at ReadyText. And again, I'm just happy to be here, and I hope to just share a little bit about myself. I'm going to do a very condensed version of, what my work is about and what my practice is about, and try to get through it all in good time. So just a little bit about me. I have a master's degree in visual arts, a minor in art history. I'm multidisciplinary. My medium changes very often, and I use whatever I need to in order to get my ideas across. So I was born and raised in the county of Dade. Y'all might not know what that means, but it just means I love Miami very much. I was born there, I was raised there, and I always represent it wherever I go. And the last thing to keep in mind is that my artwork, it tends to take on a chalk and blackboard aesthetic because I'm always thinking about things that we're learning and things that we're teaching each other as we live life. And so my work, I think, can be split into two separate categories. It's what I call the hero arc. The first one is called the hero arc, and I'm a big comic book fan, if you can't tell by that title. But the work in this category, it focuses on themes of identity, questioning and analyzing mainstream media for its problematic messaging regarding Black bodies. And it focuses on responding to the white gaze and creating counter narratives. So that's the work that's in this category. And I think it started all the way back in 2012 when I was an undergraduate. And this is the movie Birdman. Has anybody ever seen this movie? Okay, I love this movie. But there was a short moment when Michael Keaton was in his dressing room, and that sign right there caught my attention. It was a very short moment. And it said, "A thing is a thing, not what is said about that thing." And it was such a simple phrase, but it stuck with me because at that time I was trying to figure out everything. I was a young adult trying to figure out who I was. I was an undergrad trying to figure out what my art was going to say. And then I realized that I was so confused because I had always just heard so many things from so many different directions, about what it means to be a Black American woman, what it means to be an artist. I was hearing so many conflicting things. And so this helped me understand that it could be whatever I wanted it to be. The thing is the thing. It's not what's being said about the thing. And so I think from there, my work started to question what I was learning. And that's why it took on the chalk and blackboard appearance. And so the first work that I considered successful in undergrad was called The Art of Arting, as taught by the institution. And what it was I collected statements from my professors at the time about what art is. And sometimes those statements would be in direct conflict with each other. So one professor would say, use color, and then the next would say, use less color. And I'm like, okay, well, which is it? And so, you know, just that understanding that, okay, you're just telling me what you like, and you're telling me what you like, so that means I can just do what I like. And, you know, that was the takeaway that I got from that experience. And so from that point on, I kind of just began experimenting and kind of deconstructing everything that I had learned. It's so funny how one little phrase in a movie can cause you to spiral into like just this act of taking apart everything in your life, everything you had ever learned, and just think about, you know, just, okay, what am I learning? Who am I? And so I started to analyze. I went back to basics, like how do we construct meaning? And words are how we do it a lot of the time, first and foremost. And so with this work, people who came into my studio, I would have each person, each visitor, write down a word that meant something to them. Doesn't matter what the word was, on a piece of paper. And then when they did that, I just throw it at the floor, and it would instantly become meaningless in a pile of other words. Except for when other people came in, they look at the floor, and then they'd see something like blue and sky next to each other, and then they say, ah, blue sky, like they'd form their own associations. And I'm like, okay, that's just something interesting little experiment, how we find meaning even when there is none. And so, and so I think for me, it just kind of solidified, you know, in a very simple way that words are very powerful and a conceptual tool that I could use, and one that was very important in shaping perspective. And so, you know, I had more questions. And so leading up to my senior show, I remember watching TV, listening to radio, reading books, watching films, and I would write down and take notes of everything that I was learning about being a Black American woman. And I just, what I found, and it's probably not surprising, is that a lot of it was negative. A lot of it was hypersexual. A lot of it was, oh, we're baby mamas, we're angry Black women, we're loud, we're aggressive. That was what I was finding about Black womanhood. And so for my senior show in undergrad, I took that, I made these 8-foot chalkboards. It was like, I think the work was 30 feet in total. And then I just reflected all of that back to the viewer, like, this is what I learned about being a Black woman in the last 6 months. And all of that, you know, that information and whatever that looked like, I made a mural with it. And so, again, this was just the culmination of everything I had learned. And I would continue thinking about what I was learning. And then the fact about learning is that once you've learned who you are, you go and you teach that to other people, like when you interact with them. So I think that's why it was important for me to investigate that. What am I learning, but also what am I teaching? And so I kept, I skipped a year, I took a year off, I had a baby. And then I went to grad school, and I was still laboring with this idea of perception. And so I made this work entitled Martyr. But this time, I wasn't just thinking about my own perceptions. I started thinking about the perceptions of people around me. So I would stand in the gallery next to this work, and when people saw it, I would say, how did he die? I would ask them the question, how did he die? Does anybody want to offer an answer for how he might have died? Just the first thing that comes to mind. He looks like Jesus. Okay, so that's different than what everyone else said, but we'll hold on to that. How did he die? Pieta. So that's what it's modeled after, right? So it has all of these art historical meanings, but nobody in America answered that question with the art, you know, the art historical reference. Every adult that I asked said he was shot. Even though there are no bullet holes, there's no blood, there's no indication that this Black man died from being shot. But the perception of and association of black bodies with violence and gun violence in America is so closely related that everybody said that except one person. And it was a child who had not yet been conditioned to think that way about black bodies. The child was the only one who noticed that he was missing a shoe. So there are little things I put in there to point to other conclusions. The fact that it's modeled after La Pieta, there are other interpretations you can come up with, but nobody did. And so I said, that's an interesting thing, that our media is so strong that it can make you think a certain way. It was all kinds of people. Black, white, Latina, everybody answered the same way in America. But I found that when I travel outside of America, they have a different response. So this is very encouraging to me. But I think it's just interesting to see that bias and to know that I live with that bias every day. When I'm, as a Black American, walking around on the street, people have their own assumptions about who I am and apparently how I can die, you know, like it was just something interesting. And so I asked myself, well, where did this perception come from? I'm not doing this. I don't walk around with guns and then just like, so where are they getting this from? And I remember coming across this video on the internet, and it's a rapper named Bobby Shmurda. And he's very popular at one point in the US. And this video, I remember reading, was the video of his performance before he got his record deal. So he was in a room with all the record executives for the label, and he did a performance for them. And this is just a little snippet of the performance. So that's just a snippet, but what I realized, and maybe what you realized too, is that there are very few Black faces in the room who are making the decision to put millions of dollars behind this person and to put his music out into the world. So when the world sees Black America, they think that every Black American is this. When in actuality, we're not even responsible for what you see. We just turn the radio on just like you do. We turn the TV on and we see it and we're like, oh no. Like, I hope this isn't what everyone thinks about us, right? But unfortunately, it can be. And so I wanted to, I guess, go on from there. And I did a series of projections in the neighborhood that I live in, because it's one of the neighborhoods that a lot of people would consider to be a dangerous neighborhood. But I've always been safe there. Nothing bad has ever happened there to me or my family or, you know, the people on my block. But because of the perception of this area being a bad area, we don't get things, basic luxuries like grocery stores or the pizza being delivered. And so America, they have this arbitrary holiday called National Pizza Week. And it's where everybody just eats pizza like crazy, but we're not able to actually participate because we can't have that delivered to our neighborhoods. And so I used the lyrics from rapper Lupe Fiasco. He has a song called Deliver, and it was about those kind of stereotypical thoughts and perceptions that lead to entire demographics of people like being demonized just for, you know, existing. And so that's what this projection series was about. And you see the little pizza slice, it was like a Batman signal, like, we need pizza. Say that again?
Why they cannot get afraid?
Wait, say it again? Why they won't deliver? Because they think the neighborhood is too dangerous. It's just the perception. And so I think I moved on from there to trying to, and this is why I call it the hero arc. I realized that these perceptions were everywhere. And so I was like, you know what? If they just knew us, maybe they would understand that we're more than what they see on TV. And so I thought about it and I said, this conceptual comic book, if there was a comic that existed to show Black people as we really are, what would it be called? And I decided, based on an interview with Melissa Harris Perry, she said something about the invisible middle of mainstream media representation. Like, we see these extremes, but we don't see that invisible middle. And so I'm like, okay, that's a great name for a comic book. And I started to create these covers based on like just my personal experiences, these mundane, normal Black moments, you know, that we live and experience in our communities. And it's just to show that we're like normal people. And it feels crazy to say that, but some people don't think that we are. And so I think for a long time, my energy was kind of focused on proving that. And so I would use things from pop culture that people would recognize, the Batman slap, and kind of change it to be like, oh, don't touch my hair, because there's this thing that happens a lot in America where a white person comes and just sticks their hand in your hair and like pet you like an animal. And it's like, hey, no, don't do that. And so, you know, this is just one of those kind of tongue-in-cheek ways of teaching them that's not appropriate behavior. And then just teaching also about the hair type. There's this thing called shrinkage with Black hair, where even if it looks short, it's probably really, really long if you straighten it. You know, just teaching about Black people and Black culture. And so by summer 2019, I was introduced to the notion of archive and how it can be used to build like a sense of national community and identity. And I recognize that as something that, you know, being a Black American, we're descendants of slaves. We don't necessarily have a national kind of widely accepted Black culture. There's no, there aren't, yes, go ahead.
No, I said still not.
Yes, and there are attempts to create something, but it's very, very hard for a lot of reasons that we don't have time to get into. But I decided to do that in my own work and to start kind of cataloging these things about growing up Black and the iconography that comes from that. So this burger is the McDonald's at the house burger. And these little juice canisters from when we were young, you know, just making these objects and adding them to what I call the supplement archive. And that's to make up for something that we don't have, which is just this collection of what Black culture is. And then these are all ceramics. And I thought that ceramic is a good material for talking about identity because it lasts forever. We dig up ceramics all the time from ancient times. But also if you drop it, it's broken in an instant. So I felt like it was a very nice metaphor for identity, because identity is not as fixed as we would like to think. It's very easily, it's very flimsy, but also it's enduring because of the traditions we keep. Like identity is very, you can perpetuate it for hundreds of years, but then it'll take one small event to like destroy culture in a certain city or a certain country forever. So I thought ceramics was a good way of addressing those issues. And so I'm just making cultural dishes, things that I recognize from Black culture. Here are some installation views of that work and how it's maybe presented. And then we'll move on to the second category of my work, which I call the villain arc. And I only call it that because I've learned in life that whenever you're doing something that someone doesn't want you to do, they consider you to be a villain. You're a bad person all of a sudden. And in this category, the work kind of deals with themes of opacity, privacy and leisure, rest for Black bodies in society. And I'm thinking about adding to societal discourse instead of just responding to it. So everything up until now has been, oh, I saw this bad thing, let me make a positive thing. Like, it was reactive. And so in this one, I'm just kind of like, in this category, I'm thinking about what I want to see and worrying about that. And then I often ignore and often antagonize the white gaze. And I say no to the demand that, the demands that it makes of Black bodies. So what I mean by that is that in the summer of 2020, George Floyd, we all know that name, and what happened to George Floyd? He came into the public awareness as a household name. We know that an officer of the law knelt on his neck for 9 minutes, and the entire world witnessed this. But in the months that followed, especially in the US, I found myself explaining over and over and over and over again why that never should have happened, and why no matter what he had done, that was an execution that should not have happened. Like, I had to explain his humanity. I'm sorry, my husband's texting me. And so by the end of the year of having that conversation over and over with family, friends, colleagues, in lectures where people are talking to you, you got to answer them back, I was so exhausted that all I wanted to do, I logged out of social media, I refused to answer phone calls, and all I wanted to do was rest. And this is the artwork that came from that. And that's what my work started to be about. It was just like, what is the purpose of talking and having these conversations with people who have no intention of listening? They already think what they think, so let them have their thoughts. I'm going to focus on rest. And so what I started to do is give Black bodies rest in places where they're not historically given rest. So like in the museum setting, for example, this work was in the Frost Museum. And in a museum setting, we're often charged with teaching a lot about Black culture. Like, one Black artist has to answer questions for the entire world of Black artists, which is impossible. I'm only one person. So I wanted to take a rest from all of that. And sometimes in America, when a Black body is taking up space in a place where someone has decided that they shouldn't be, there's this thing where they're often asked to identify themselves, like, who are you? What are you doing here? Let me see your ID. Even if it's not the police or an authority, anybody just feels like they have the right to demand that of a Black body. So my work started to take on what I call the inward turn. So it's like this intentional facing away of the audience. And you don't get to know who I am. You don't get to know why I'm here. You can just see me resting, but you don't get to partake in it. You don't get to interrupt it. And that's what my artwork is doing from that point on. So again, in my villain arc, Black bodies are allowed to loiter. They're allowed to be big and not have to minimize themselves to accommodate notions of whiteness. And so this particular series is called Invisible Men. And I set it up in a hotel on Miami Beach. And it was a bunch of these figures. They were very large. And the reason I did that was because the city mayor had just been caught sending emails saying that he didn't want Black people to be on the beach or to be tourists. Like, it was a mess. But he had said this, like, oh no, we don't want them here. And so I did my best to antagonize him by putting big Black bodies, you know, right in one of the luxurious hotels right on the beach. And so you can't disturb them. They're there, they're resting, they belong there, and you can't do anything about it. So for my first solo exhibition, which was One More River, it took place in the state of Tennessee. Now, I don't know how much you know about Tennessee, but it's the birthplace of the KKK, which is one of the hate groups in America, one of the longest running hate groups in America. And so I had my solo show in Tennessee, and I presented these works, and I called the series Rest as Reparations, as a mean of like repaying Black people for the historically violent treatment that we've received in American society. And so these works were just of Black bodies resting, and it had the kind of hand-drawn elements in the background, because I feel like those elements are really innocent. Those are drawings that we did as children, and I believe children are the most innocent among us, so I kind of want to take it back there. Like, let's just rest. Let's have fun. Let's imagine an environment where we're allowed to do that without being harassed. And so that's what the drawings are kind of implying by being with these, the figures. And these are just some more of the images from that show. And so recently I've gotten into public works, and this outdoor sculpture was presented at the Museum of Contemporary Art in North Miami as a part of their Art on the Plaza program, and it's entitled Narcissus. And it's that same idea of being the villain. It's refusing the gaze of the viewer, and it's based on that Greek mythology of Narcissus, who fell in love with himself by looking at his reflection in the pool. And I think I just, again, wanted to talk about Black people and Black bodies, finding self-love and not worrying about the viewer. like just always focusing on self and figuring out self and working for self and being allowed to exist in spaces without harassment. And so for the last slide, I told you I was going to get it done quick. More recently, I've started to use the notion of archive to tell very personal stories about my home and my community that don't just refute what's being said, but that other people can actually connect to when they watch the stories and see themselves in the work, so that that does the job of convincing people that of your humanity. Like when they can connect to something that you're saying, that makes it easier for you to understand them and for them to understand you. So that's what I'm doing now. And I'm just going to play the video, and then we'll go from there. Uh-oh. It's a black screen right now. It's there. It's there. That's my mama, y'all. Okay. And that's it. Any questions?
Can we go back to the product here we make, like bread of ceramic and a kind of
This one?
yeah, but look like chow mein, like
Oh, this one or this one?
yeah.
Okay. So what it is rice and beans, jambalaya, and pigeon peas and rice. And those are some of the dishes that we eat in the Black community. Yes, they're all ceramics.
Was it difficult to create all the color?
It's more time consuming than difficult. Like it takes a long time, but I think that's a part of the work, is like this unseen labor that I feel like people of color everywhere around the world do a lot of unseen labor, especially women. There are a lot that we do. So yeah, when you look at that, maybe you consider the labor from now on. You know what I mean? Not if it's a real plate of rice, but if it's ceramic, you start to think about how long it took.
Look at the rice and peas.
Oh.
and
Oh, this one?
no.
That one? It's pigeon peas and rice.
What is it?
Pigeon peas and rice. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The drawings that you make them small and then digitally enlarge them. So the Narcissus, for instance.
Oh,
Or
yes.
is that drawn at that scale?
So the Narcissus, the actual drawing was about 8 feet.
It's taller than me, right?
Mm-hmm. And then I took the picture and digitally, I sent it to the manufacturer, and they created the cutout, like the statue, and it's like 20 feet. Like it's pretty big.
Is it pencil or charcoal?
It's chalk.
Chalk
Mm-hmm.
on paper.
Yeah, on black paper.
Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
How long does it take to make a drawing this big? It was already 8 feet. Big.
So a couple, well, depending on the drawing, maybe about 100 hours or more. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty labor intensive.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's not fixed. So if you rub it, it'll all come off.
Oh, it's chocolate.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Oh, wow.
But still now and never.
Oh no, I know how to take care of them. Yeah. And the reason I do that is because whenever they're being exhibited, it's this idea of treating black bodies kindly. So you have to be very, very, very careful with the work because it's on paper and it's chalk. They've been ripped. They've been messed up. Like I've had to repair these works over and over again. So I think it's just like a performance piece to a certain extent. Like they keep a record of how they're treated.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They won't last forever.
No, not at all. Not unless you really take care of them. Mm-hmm.
Because this one is outside.
Yes.
So when it rains,
Oh no, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah, that's the digital one, the one that was translated digitally. So yeah, it's fine.
Lying down, that's on paper.
That's on paper.
Oh, that's so impressive.
Mm-hmm.
This one as well is the same, like this picture, the same way.
No, this one, yes, with chalk and black paper. Yeah, this one's that's not a that's on paper. Mm-hmm.
But the lady in yellow,
Yes.
you draw it after.
Oh no, that's just a this is my sister actually. She's in the gallery looking at the work.
Oh, okay.
So I showed this picture so you can see the scale of it.
Okay, I got part of that.
Oh no.
And your graduation work, is
Mhm.
that still intact or is that what?
I turned it into tables
Drawings on?
with the drawings on.
Oh, that was beautiful.
Thank you.
Very beautiful. Very
Yeah.
impressive.
Oh, thank you.
Are you showing
Thank you.
anything here or not?
No, not here. Not here. But if you're in Miami during Art Basel, I'll have a show up at Green Space, and it'll run through Art Basel. So if anybody's
When
visiting,
is our battle?
it's in December, first week of December. If you've never been, you might want to check that out. It's a great time. Oh my God. It's a fun time.
Which period is that?
Art Basel in Miami Beach during December, the first week of December. It's a very good time. Art shows everywhere, parties everywhere. It's a good time.
I went there.
Oh, see? Did you like it? Uh-huh.
I spent my whole day.
I was there last year.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
really big.
It's so much art.
Yeah.
But your rice production, how much of the
So far I have 12 pounds of the rice, and it's a work that's going to keep going because I would love to like cover a gallery floor with the rice, but it's also free. So when visitors come in, you get a spoon and you take a spoon of it away, as you go. So it's just something to, show love. I'm trying to be like my mom.
And then you make new ones?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep.
you can cook them?
No. I mean, in the kiln, yes. You can cook it in the kiln, absolutely. Yes.
Because you were talking about, there's still it's like one black culture in the US. So now you've been here and you visited the Maroon village. So what did that do with you?
I think it showed me that we're not as different as they thought we were. Like I was very comfortable. And I recognize some of the things that they do from some of the black cultures that we have in the U.S., like the Geechee and the Gullah culture. It's so similar. So Yeah, it reaffirmed what I already know, which is that we're not so different. Mm-hmm. Listen, I want to go back. I would live there if I could. It was wonderful. It was wonderful. Life changing. Mm-hmm. I went to the Maroon Village in Kishamau. That was the village that I visited. And while I was there, they were having a funeral ceremony. So I got to see how the village sends someone away. Oh my God, it was so beautiful. It was so beautiful. I can't like, I'm still processing and I can't put it into words, but it was amazing. It was amazing. Well.
You're based in Miami? You're based in Miami?
I was for the longest time. I'm still based in Miami, yeah. I'm back and forth though.
But America has a lot of states.
Yes.
What is the difference between, I guess you visit those places, but have you eat some specific thing that was different than your based life?
I think every state is like its own country. So yeah, there are major differences in each culture, but like there are also certain similarities. And that's, I think, what I'm trying to archive when I do the work here. This is one of those things that no matter where you were, they did this. And no matter where you were, they drank those when they were kids. So there are certain things that transcend, geography. And those are the things I'm interested in. But yeah, it's different everywhere you go.
But the rice is still
the rice in every culture, rice seems to be like a staple. And even this idea of did you eat, which is what the name of the work is. Some of my friends who are from Taiwan or from China, they say their parents ask them the exact same thing when they haven't seen them. They say, did you eat? That's the first question that they ask. And I found that's been the case in other cultures as well. So it's just the things that tie us together and make us, connect to each other. I'm really interested in those things. See? Which one? Oh, yes, sure.
What was your statement?
I said it with Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first thing that reminded me of Mary and Jesus. Study.
Mm-hmm. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
I saw more like a dying son and mother.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And what are they sitting on, actually?
They're sitting on piles of cash. Piles of cash, money. Mm-hmm.
And why did you decide to put
I think because at the time I was working with meaning, like trying to figure out what things mean. And so signifiers such as money and Jordans and gold chains, they cause people to think a certain way. And I kind of wanted to see if that was the case. And it was.
Who's that woman relate to the... Who's that woman relate to the dying person?
It's whoever you think she is. Some people said his mother, but I feel like she's too young to be a mother figure to him. So, it's just based on your perception.
Yes, girlfriend.
Could be.
Because if she sit on cash,
Mm-hmm.
that means they get something.
So the symbolism is leading you there now. Now you're thinking about it like, you did something bad.